Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Tatashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Tatashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Govardhan, could you get me my orange bag? I left it hanging. There's something in there I may need. Okay. So this being the glorious disappearance day, I believe, of Jiva Goswami and Jagadish Pandit. We're going to read about them first. Thank you. And we'll first read about Sri Jiva Goswami, very important acharya in our line. Appearing as the nephew of Sri Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, Sri Jiva Goswami displayed all the charming features of a Mahapurush, a divine person. He had lotus eyes, a high nose and forehead, broad chest, long arms, and a radiant golden body. In his boyhood, he made a deity of Krishna Balaram. I think this is a bit loud for me, if you could turn it down. In his boyhood, he made a deity of Krishna Balaram. Expressing his pure devotion, he would often cry while worshipping them. After offering clothes, chandan, flowers, ornaments, and tasty sweets to Krishna Balaram, he would take some and give Mahaprasadam to his playmates. From the beginning, Jiva showed his kindness to other Jivas, living entities. Jiva was so much attached to Krishna Balaram that at bedtime he would embrace his deities and fall asleep. His parents thought he was only playing, but the villagers rejoiced to see Jiva's love for Krishna Balaram. In school, he quickly mastered Sanskrit grammar, poetry, logic, philosophy. Srimad Bhagavatam gave life to his life. Krishna Katha filled him with happiness. No one dared to speak to him about anything but Krishna. He toured Navadvip Dham with Sri Nityananda Prabhu, studied Sanskrit in Banaras, and then resided in Vrindavan. After humbly serving Sri Rupa Goswami by washing his feet, preparing his manuscripts, and editing his books, he received Diksha. Once the aging Vaishnava Vallabhacharya gave critical advice to Sri Rupa Goswami on his writing. Although much younger than the Venerable Vallabha, Sri Jiva brazenly spoke in defense of his guru. Sri Rupa Goswami scolded Sri Jiva, telling him to leave Vrindavan. Now, there's another variation of this pastime, is that there was one of these debaters, like Keshava Kashmiri, who came and was challenging all the scholars, and so he wanted to challenge Rupa Goswami to a debate. Rupa Goswami didn't want to waste any time, so he said, "Give me the sheet." And he signed it. Yes, you've beaten me in this debate. So Jiva Goswami heard about that, and he wanted to defeat this guy. So he did easily. When Rupa Goswami heard about it, he was upset with him, and that's how he exiled him from Vrindavan, and he was living austerely in a way. And I think Sanatana Goswami then told Rupa, "You should be kind to all the jivas. You should, So he forgave him, and he came back to Vrindavan. But he's got this other version. So Jiva Goswami left Vrindavan, living in an abandoned crocodile hole in Nandagat, 45 minutes from Rupa's Bhajan Kutir. Sri Jiva Goswami began fasting. He subsisted on wheat flour which he begged and soaked in Yamuna water. Seeing his strict self-denial, Sanatana Goswami brought him back to the service of Sri Rupa Goswami. Srila Prabhupada once commented on this guru-disciple pastime. Quote, "Sri Rupa Goswami cast out Jiva Goswami to teach us, the devotees of today, a lesson. It was not done to teach or punish Sri Jiva Goswami, who was a perfectly liberated eternal associate of Lord Krishna. Rupa Goswami sent Jiva Goswami out of Vrindavan to teach all jivas what he wrote in the Upadeshamrita. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam jiva vegam." This is not jiva, this is the tongue, jiva vegam. One who can control the urges of the words, the mind, anger, the tongue, and the genitals can make disciples all over the world. So Prabhupada continues, "At all times the devotee should control his tongue, his speech, and always remain humble. Trinata Pisunichena." After the disappearance of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana Goswamis, Sri Jiva Goswami became the Gaudiya Sampradaya Acharya to guide all Vaishnavas in Navadvip. So he is the Acharya for the whole Sampradaya, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. In order to guide all the Vaishnavas in Navadvip, Vrindavan, and Jagannath Puri. Although he was the undisputed leader, he always acted as a humble servant of all the jivas. Whenever Bengali Vaishnavas visited Vrindavan, he would lovingly receive them, arrange for prasadam and comfortable rooms, and even guide them on Brajamandal Parakram. A super excellent Sanskrit scholar, Sri Jiva Goswami would compose Sanskrit verses in his mind and write them down without changing anything. As an editor, I know how difficult that is to not have anyone, correct anything, but he didn't need that. Write them down means he used a metal stylus to permanently etch them in palm leaves. This inscription method left no room for erasing, editing, rewriting, or running a spell check. That's obviously a joke. Yet, each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. All right, so I can't resist now. I'll give you a sample of one of his verses. This Gopal Champu is just great. I have it translated by Kushakrata Prabhu, a nice translation. It's also Bhattacharya did a translation. But Kushakrata also translated some of the songs, giving the Sanskrit and everything. The songs, and they're there in Bhattacharya's edition, but I don't think he gave the Sanskrit. So here's one sample of part of the song. Let's see, how's it go? Oh yes. This is based on it's all based on Bhagavatam. So this is the 21st chapter of Venu Gita. He wrote a song summarizing the gopis' song. That's what it's called, the Venu Gita. The gopis are singing. Ramo Rama Nujahiti Yugalam Kritanata Veshiti Yapatadachiti Gayati Sakagana Yugalam. So that's the refrain, which means Rama is Lord Ramchandra. If you read it in Krishna books, then you see that it's Krishna and Rama entering together. And when the gopis begin their song, Akshan Batam Balamidam, they're speaking about both Krishna and Rama, because they think that their parents or elders might be listening in. They don't want to, get them to get the idea that it's focused too much on Krishna. So they're glorifying both Rama and Krishna. So that's the refrain, is like, Rama Ramanuja. Ramanuja means he was born after Ram. It's a name for Krishna. Iti Yugalam. Kutanata Veshataya. They have the dress. They're just like the two beautiful dancing actors on the stage. Kutanata Veshataya Patorajati. Gayati Sakagana Yugalam. And their friends are all singing about them as they enter. And they're playing the flutes. So their friends are singing songs about them and glorifying them. And you see that when you read the gopi songs, it starts like that. So anyway, it goes on. I won't take too much time, but as it says, the Sanskrit is exquisite. And I have some of that if you're interested. So each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. He was the greatest philosopher in all of Indian history. Contemporary Sanskritists call him the greatest scholar who ever lived. Sri Jiva Goswami was the youngest but most prolific writer among the Goswamis. He wrote an astounding 500,000 Sanskrit verses, about 25 books. His books prove that Sri Chaitanya's philosophy gives the essence of Vedic wisdom and the perfection of religion. So he gives a few of the books: Gopal Champu, the Shat Sandarbhas, and the Harinam Vyakaran, which is a grammar book that just talks about Krishna. Everything is in relation to Krishna. The Harinam Vyakaran are three of his most famous works. The Sandarbhas firmly established the transcendental truths of Srimad Bhagavatam. They also confirm that Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, Swayam Bhagavan, the cause of everything and the source of all avatars. Anyone who faithfully reads these books will become a devotee of Krishna. And then he mentions Satyanarayan Das, who at that time was preparing a translation of the Sandarbhas. This Satyanarayan, who was a scholar, he gave this explanation of Jiva Goswami's name. Actually, Sri Jiva Goswami's name, Jiva, is very interesting when considered in light of the Bhagavad verse. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatuspadam jivo jivasya jivanam. Animals without hands are food for those with hands. Those without feet are food for the four-legged. Everywhere, one jiva, living entity, is food for another. Another meaning of jiva is one who gives life to others. So the spiritual knowledge given by Jiva Goswami in his 25 books gives life to all the devotees. And then he goes on. Another name of jiva is jivaka, one who makes the jivas, living beings, emit ecstatic sounds. Sri Jiva Goswami did this by supplying the esoteric meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam through his Bhagavat commentaries and his Shat Sandarbhas. Shat means six Sandarbhas. They're philosophical treatises. One who expands the nature of the Jiva, his relationship with the Lord, the process to achieve the goal and the ultimate purpose of life, is Jivaka or Jiva. The following quote comes from Sri Jiva Goswami's Nectarian Gopal Champu, which describes the playful Vrindavan pastimes of Radha Damodar. Quote, from Govardhan Hill, this is describing the Govardhan Leela. From Govardhan Hill, a large form of Govardhan manifested. All the Brajbasis, along with Krishna himself, then offered obeisances to that towering form. As Sri Krishna stood by with folded hands, that great personality of Govardhan bellowed, I shall eat all your offerings! Because they had piled, that's one of the other names of Govardhan Puja, Anakuta, which means a mountain of food. So it describes, when you read the Gopal Champu, that all the different villages around, they would, all the food that they had, they would bring and offer to Govardhan. And he would say, bring me more, ani or, ani or. And he would eat everything, and everyone was astounded. That's a famous pastime. So as Sri Krishna stood by with folded hands, that great personality Govardhan bellowed, I shall eat all your offerings. He ate and drank water by emptying all the kundas around the hill. While eating all the preparations made by the Brajbasis with his right hand, he snapped the fingers of his left hand. The coward men ran out of the way when Govardhan stretched out his hands to take more and call out, Aniyor, Aniyor, Aniyor. Bring more, bring more, bring more. At the quest, okay, so that's it about the Govardhan. At the request of Acharya Rani Janavadevi Thakurani. Now she became the Acharya when the Goswamis had disappeared. Janavamata, Nityananda's wife, one of his wives. At the request of Janavadevi Thakurani, Sri Jiva Goswami had Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, Shamananda Prabhu, and Shamananda Prabhu take the Goswami's writings from Vrindavan to Bengal, because they were just there in their original forms. They hadn't been copied. All the copiers and scholars were in Navadvip. So she wanted the book distribution to start, so she said, you can take them down. And there's a whole pastime around that, which when they lost them, they were stolen, and Shamananda retrieved them. So they translated them into Bengali and distributed them throughout Bengal and Orissa. They also preached extensively and initiated hundreds of devotees. In 1542, Sri Jiva Goswami established the worship of Shri Shri Radha Damodar at Sevakunj in Vrindavan, and this is where Prabhupada stayed, his famous Radha Damodar temple for years. His samadhi stands in the temple compound, along with Rupa Goswami's samadhi and many others. Sri Jiva Goswami is Vilas Manjri and Radha Damodar's Nitya Vrindavan Leela. Sri Jiva Goswami ki jai. And now we have another really short one about Jagadish Pandit, so please bear with me. Okay, this is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, quote, Jagadish Pandit was the savior of the world. He was a monsoon cloud of Krishna Prema, pouring showers of mercy upon everyone. Jagadish Pandit and his brother Mahesh lived near Jagannath Mishra in Sridham Mayapur. Jagannath Mishra is Lord Chaitanya's father. So he lived near Lord Chaitanya when he was growing up. One Ekadashi day, baby Nimai, that's Lord Chaitanya, baby Nimai was crying constantly. He stopped crying after taking some Mahaprasadam rice in Jagadish Pandit's home. So it's Ekadashi, but he's showing that he's actually Krishna by just taking rice. Then Nimai performed a miracle. Jagadish Pandit swooned in ecstasy upon seeing baby Gauranga manifest a beautiful form with a monsoon cloud blue complexion, shining like lightning and adorned with a shimmering peacock feather. So the Jagadish Pandit saw that. After moving to Jagannath Puri, Lord Gaurachandra asked Jagadish to come help spread the Harinam Sankirtan movement. Taking Lord Jagannath's permission, so he asked Jagannath to come help. Not to come help, they were both in Jagannath Puri. He asked him to go back to Navadvip and help spread the movement. This English needs some editing. Lord Gaurachandra asked Jagadish to return to Navadvip and help spread Harinam. Taking Lord Jagannath's permission, Jagadish Pandit took a deity of Jagannath back to Nadia to worship in his village of Yashore. In Krishna's Nitya Leela, Jagadish Pandit serves as the dancer Chandrahasa, or a Nagapatni, wife of Kaliya. Shri Jagadish Pandit ki jai. So, Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamidhiriyet. Okay. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Kirtama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious in the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 22nd day of December 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, a translation commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And since we didn't hear Bhagavatam yesterday, I'm going to read yesterday's verse, just the translation. There's no purport. And then we'll read, oh, there is a little purport, I'm sorry. And then we'll read chant 622 together. So this is, Amshaman said, "My Lord, even Lord Brahma is to this very day unable to understand your position." I think he's speaking to Kapila Dev here. Which is far beyond himself, either by meditation or by mental speculation. So what to speak of others like us, who have been created by Brahma in various forms as demigods, animals, human beings, birds, and beasts? We are completely in ignorance. Therefore, how can we know you, who are the transcendence, supreme transcendence? Purport. Prabhupada starts with this verse. Itcha dvesha samurtena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sargayanti parantapa. Translation. O scion of Bharat, Arjun, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Bhagavad Gita 7:27. All living beings in the material world are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Even Lord Brahma is in the mode of goodness. Similarly, the demigods are generally in the mode of passion, and living entities lower than the demigods, such as human beings and animals, are in the mode of ignorance or the mixed goodness, passion, and ignorance. Therefore, Angshaman wanted to explain that because his uncles, who had been burnt to ashes, were under the modes of material nature, they could not understand Lord Kapila Dev. Quote, speaking to Kapila Dev, he continues, "Because you are beyond even the direct and indirect intelligence of Lord Brahma," he prayed, "unless we are enlightened by your lordship, it will not be possible for us to understand you." And here Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Prayers of Brahma, chapter 14, 10th canto. Atapite deva padamba jadvaya prasada leshanuga iddahevahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanne eko pichadam vichinvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Bhagavatam 10:14-29. The Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can be understood by one who is favored by the Lord. The Lord cannot be understood by others. Now text 22. Ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana gunan vipashyanti utava tamascha yanmayaya mohita chetasas tvam viduhu swasangstam nabahi pakasha ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana gunan vapashyantu davatamascha yanmayaya mohita chetasastvam vidusvasangstam nabahi pakasha ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana gunan vapashyantu davatamascha yanmayaya mohita chetasastvam vidusvasangstam nabahi pakasha ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana gunan vapashyantu davatamascha yanmayaya mohita chetasastvam vidusvasangstam nabahi pakasha ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana Gunan vapashyantyudavatamascha Yadmaya mohita chetasastvam Vidusva sangstam nabahi prakashaha Ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana Gunan vapashyantyudavatamascha Yadmaya mohita chetasastvam Vidusva sangstam nabahi prakashaha Ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana Gunan vapashyantu tavatamascha Yanmaya mohita chetasastvam Vidusva sangstam nabihi prakashaha. Ladies. Ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana Gunan vapashyantu yutavatamascha Yanmaya mohita chetasastvam Vidusva sangstam nabahi prakashaha. Anyone online?
Ye deha bhajas triguna pradhana.
Naveen, can you shut those for me? Thanks. Word by word. Ye, those persons who Deha bhajaha have accepted the material body. Triguna pradhanaha, influenced by the three modes of material nature. Gunan, the manifestation of the three modes of material nature. Vipashyanti, can see only. Uta, it is so said. Va, either. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Cha, and. Yat mayaya, by the illusory energy of whom. Mohita, has been bewildered. Chetasaha, the core of whose heart. Tvam, your lordship. Viduhu, no. Swasangstam, situated in one's own body. Na, not. Bahi prakashaha, those who can see only the products of external energy. All right. So this is continuing Anshuman speaking to Kapiladev. My Lord, you are fully situated in everyone's heart, but the living entities covered by the material body cannot see you, for they are influenced by the external energy conducted by the three modes of material nature. Their intelligence being covered by sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna, they can see only the actions and reactions of these three modes of material nature. Because of the actions and reactions of the mode of ignorance, whether the living entities are awake or sleeping, they can see only the workings of material nature. They cannot see your lordship. Purport. Unless one is situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, one is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart. However, because the conditioned souls are influenced by material nature, they can see only the actions and reactions of the material nature, but not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One therefore must purify himself internally and externally. Abhavitrak pavitro va sarvavastang gratopi va yaksmadet pundari kaksham sabbaya bhyantarak shuchihi. To keep ourselves externally clean, we should bathe 3 times daily, and for internal cleanliness, we must cleanse the heart by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement must always follow this principle, bhaya abhyantarak shuchihi. Then it will one day be possible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So one of the themes that I think we're encountering here in these chapters, going all the way back to Durvasa and Ambarish, is the dangers of offending great souls, beginning with the Lord himself, but also his great devotees. We saw that with Durvasa and Ambarish, and we saw that with, who was the next one? Forget, but here we have those who offended Kapila Dev by thinking that he had killed all the sons of, was it Amshaman? Oh, Rahita, I think. They encountered him, and they thought that he had stolen the horse for the sacrifice of their father or something. And they were they raised their weapons, and they suddenly burned to ashes. But it turned out that it wasn't Kapila Dev who did it, it was the heat in their own bodies that they burned to ashes. So there's a reconciliation going to happen in Kapila Dev. He's going to be worshipped here. Kapila Dev, of course, is an incarnation of Krishna. We learned about Kapila Dev back in the third canto in his extensive instructions to his mother, the Sankhya Yoga, and his wonderful Saru Sangashtaka that he begins with, which I sometimes quote. So that's one of the things that is being explained here. But here Prabhupada emphasizes a very common theme in the Bhagavad Gita and other shastras, that if we really want to know God, we can do so, number one, only by the process of bhakti. That's there in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Mama Bijanati Yavanyastasmi Tattvada. Krishna, it's that famous verse in the 18th chapter. But here the emphasis is on one has to become purified. With our present senses, we can't understand Krishna. Atakshi Krishna Namadi Namabe Grayam Indeyai Seva Mukha Hijivado Swayam Evaspurachida. That with our present mind and senses, we can't understand the significance of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. That's what this means, beginning with the name, Atakshi Krishna Namadi, Nam, etc. But if one begins devotional service, beginning with the tongue, jiva, seva on mukhe, beginning to seva, jivado, beginning with the tongue. In other words, chanting the holy name. Eventually we get purified and Krishna will reveal himself. Jivado swayam eva spuratyada. So that holds for every aspect of beginning with the holy name, but the form, qualities, pastimes, all of that becomes progressively revealed to us depending on our purity and our sincerity and depth of our devotional service. Krishna is, otherwise he remains hidden. Even when they see them. That's why it's said that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, only a handful really understood that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Most of them didn't. Most of those, just like Duryodhana, he was such a fool, right? He had there's a pastime where Krishna was supposedly resting and Arjuna and Duryodhana came to see him, and then he woke up, and whoever he saw first, he was going to get the first choice, whether to take Krishna on this side or Krishna's army. So it turns out that he saw Duryodhana first, I think. And he gave him the choice, and he said, or maybe it was Arjun. So he gave him the choice, and Arjun, Duryodhana said, "Oh my God, now Arjun's going to take the armies." But he didn't. He said, "I'll take you, even though you're not going to fight." And they said, "Oh, great! I'll take the armies. What am I going to do with Krishna?" He didn't understand. Arjuna understood, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and most importantly, he understood him as his own friend, and he trusted him in his protection. So that's a central theme in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna reserves the right of not being understood or even perceived by non-devotees. But for his devotees, it's depending on the depth of the devotion, sincerity, and purity, he progressively reveals himself. And that's why Srila Prabhupada had full faith, even though in going to the land of the Lechas and Yavanas, He was had full faith in that verse of the Bhagavatam and Lord Chaitanya's encouragement also. My name will be heard in every town and village in this world, not just in India. And there's that Kirati Hunan, the Pulin, the Pulkasha, Abir Shumba, Yavana Kasharya. Ye nye papa yadapashayashaya shudyanti tasmai prabha Vishnave namaha. This is in prayers of Shukadev before he actually begins reciting the second canto to Parikit. So Kirata, these are various outcasts, those who live outside of Bharata and Prabhupada gave it, Hunas are the Huns, those are the Germans, and Kirata, Hunan, the Pulin, the Pulga, Abir, the Shumba, Yamana, the Kasas. The Kasas are the Mongolians and the Chinese, but those who can't, Prabhupada says those who can't grow mustaches. He said that one time. I don't know. But anyway, they're all outside of India, obviously. But here it says, even these who seem so permanently disqualified, nobody's permanently disqualified. If they take shelter of one who has taken shelter of Krishna, in other words, a pure devotee, then they can also get the blessings and become devotees. And on the basis of that, Prabhupada preached everywhere that he could. He couldn't go to China, but he told Tamal Krishna Maharaj to go to China. You know that's a famous story. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was one of the pioneers of the Radha Damodar bus party, which was a revolutionary. They had these Greyhound buses that they bought, and he and Tamal and first Vishnu Jan, I think, on the first bus with Radha Damodar deities from Gita Nagari were in that bus. And they were going out and they would go to campuses and they would sing bhajans and things and sell books and everything. And gradually they bought more buses. Prabhupada was very pleased with that whole program. So, but at one point, the management in India was a little ragged, and Prabhupada trusted Tamal more than anyone. He said, you have to go now and be the GBC of India. So Tamal, did that. But at one point he asked Prabhupada if he could go back to America, and because it was so difficult trying to manage India. And Prabhupada said, don't be so restless, just surrender to service. But then, Prabhupada said, so Tamal said something like, well, it's more difficult than, preaching to China. You might as well send me to China. Thinking that was out of the question. You had this heavy communist country there, nobody could do anything. So Prabhupada said, yes, you should go to China. So Tamal, oh my God, what have I done, But he did. He actually went there, pioneered it, and he pioneered China's preaching, and the yatra really grew. Especially in the 70s, there was a period where there was a leader there, I forget his name, and devotees could go out and chant, and there was no problem on the street. There was like the democratic, blip in it, and then it came back, and it was much more repressive. But still, to this day, there are many, many Chinese devotees. I don't know if they can go on the street anymore, but they can chant as much as they want inside. And so, but there's a lot of chanting books and everything. So anyway, the point is that as this nice verse explains, you are fully situated in everyone's heart, but the living entities cannot see you because they're covered by the material body, which is run by the material modes. So the modes of nature, we just happen to be in that chapter, coming near the end of it on our evening classes, chapter 14. And it's, you realize that the Bhagavad Gita is so wonderfully organized. We already encountered the modes of nature. Last night I read that famous verse, Daiviyesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Dorotyaya. That everyone in this world is conditioned by the modes of nature. My material energy, which is divine because it's connected to me. So to see that this is what the Mahabhagavats see, we can't understand. They see Krishna everywhere. Just as if you walk in the temple and you realize, okay, the curtains are closed, but you see everything in this room is related to Krishna in serving him in a certain way. Right? Whether it's the benches, or whether it's the paintings, or whether it's the charanamrita, the lights. So this is all manifestation of material energy. But it's obviously divine. It's directly connected to Krishna. But the Mahabhagavat, they see everything is really related to Krishna. You walk outside here, you're 2 blocks, 3 blocks from the temple, and so you see the big trees and whatever the traffic and everything. But whatever there is, is a combination of the material and the spiritual energy. The jivas are driving the cars, and the jivas are sitting in the trees and everything. And how did it come about? This material energy is created by Krishna precisely for those who want to forget them, to give them a place that is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, where we can try to enjoy, and get frustrated birth after birth, down into the species. But there's a chance. Krishna comes personally, he leaves his Bhagavad Gita, he empowers his representatives like Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers to be media, right? Prabhupada called it transparent via medium. Via medium is something else. Via medium is a way. But what he meant there is transparent media to transmit the truth of Krishna consciousness and to be examples that can inspire others to take it up. And that's why we're sitting here. So Krishna never abandons this place. He's always here. He's in every atom and he's in every heart. But by the same token, this is explained by Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, instructions Sanatana Goswami, that Krishna comes out from the heart and he appears as the Acharya and the Shastra in order to give us a chance to actually perceive. It's our task to be fortunate enough to be receptive, to have enough intelligence to at least become interested and check out that book that we got it, or let's check out the Hare Krishnas or whatever. And it's rare amongst how many devotees are there in this world compared to the number of human beings, what to speak of the living entities. So we should, I always make this point, and Prabhupada would often make it, that we should take advantage of this great opportunity. It's such a gift that is given by Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas. Just reading about Jiva Goswami, I remember working on that Tattva Sandarbha, and it was such a revelation. And it was, what is the first chapter? It's all about the Bhagavatam, and how the Bhagavatam is the full manifestation of the science of devotional service. It's really kind of an incarnation of Krishna, like all the books, understanding that Bhagavatam, that's also essential and needs to be given. That's why we say every morning service to the Srimad Bhagavatam and also the Bhagavat, the person Bhagavat and the book Bhagavat together. So we have that opportunity. We've got the Bhagavatam explained by the pure devotee here, and we have by the efforts of Satyanarayan, he ended up doing his own Tattva Sandarbha, but Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu, it's a BBT book, the Tattva Sandarbha. It's an introduction to the six Sandarbhas, giving us the importance of the Bhagavatam itself, and then the rest of the Priti Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, the six other, they are based on the Bhagavat teachings, but he gives it in such a way as to make it so much enlightening. So those are foundations of our sampradaya, these six sandarbhas, and they're available now. If you're interested in the Tattva Sandarbha, I can give you a PDF or give you. I think it's available in its book form by the BBT. So anyway, that's mentioned. We mentioned that in the readings of Jiva Goswami. But here it's the same point. He's making that point. The intelligence is covered by sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna, and they're diluted. We're diluted by those three modes. That's what that verse is that Prabhupada quotes here from the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, that was earlier. But it's Daivi Yesha Guname Mama Maya Dorotya. That these three modes of material nature. See it as divine. Everything is divine because it's connected to Krishna. But when it's affected by the modes of nature and therefore it's not manifesting Krishna directly, we forget Krishna and we try to deal with, we make, this is good for my senses, this is not, let me avoid this. So it's attraction and aversion. The opposite of attachment is not detachment. The opposite of attachment is aversion. You see the difference? That is, I don't like it. Let me avoid it, you see? But we want detachment. Means that if something difficult happens or negative happens, we don't get absurd. We realize this is due to my karma. Krishna's teaching me it could have been much worse. That's that verse, tattenu kampam susamikshimano. You see? Or we have something that's attached, tries to attract our senses. No, this is not what Krishna wants. You see? So that's what vairagya means. It means lack of attachment and aversion. And that vairagya is essential for foundation for making advancement in devotional service. But the wonderful thing about it is, if we sincerely try to serve Krishna or Vasudeva, then automatically that vairagya will come. And with it will come our sense of liberation also. Mukta Sangha. Mukta Sangha. Mukta Sangha means freedom from attachment. Right? That's the essential of mukti. If we're not attached to anything in this world, we're just attached to Krishna, then when we die, we'll go back to Godhead. It's those attachments that we build over lifetimes of karmic activity that keep bringing us back. They're called Hridaya Granthi, or knots in the heart. So, yes, last night I was casting about what should I speak about. And at first I thought maybe I would deal with this book called Dharma, the Way of Transcendence. I don't know if you probably don't distribute that here so much, but I think in India it's popular. It's an Indian printing. And that Dharma, the Way of Transcendence, was an idea that I had. That book came up in the 90s, I think mid-90s. And what is it? It is based on these verses in the second chapter, first canto, that probably will quote many, many times, beginning with Savai Pungsang Paro Dharmo, and ending with Vidyate Vidya Grantist. I think there's about 17, 18 verses. And it goes through. The question, is the question we should all have. What is that Dharma? What is that thing that we can do by which the soul can be completely satisfied? The sages in Naimisharanya were asking that of Sutta. And on the basis of his hearing the Bhagavatam, he then spoke this. And Savai Pungsang Pado Dharma Yato Bhakti Hokshaje. That's the answer to the first question. The Supreme Dharma is that which engenders pure devotion to the Supreme Lord. And what's the name he used? Adhokshaja. Does anyone remember what that means? It's not from Vrindavan, not a pastime name. Ada Akshaja. Akshaja is knowledge that is born or produced from the ascending method, the eyes and the ears and the things. Krishna is Ada. He pushes all that down. In other words, it means the transcendent Lord, beyond the reach of our senses, mind, intelligence as it now exists. Now, why do they use that name? One of the reasons this is just my own idea, is that in order to begin devotional service, you have to have faith, because even the soul we can't see, we can't perceive directly. So you have to have faith that Krishna is there. If you're going to begin chanting Hare Krishna, you can do it just as without any seriousness, but you're not going to get it's. Don't get me wrong, it's auspicious, but you can't really advance that way. The basis of our advancement is faith. Adha Shuddha Tatak Sangha. This is Rupa Goswami, we're Rupa Nugas. So first comes this faith, and then comes association with actual devotees, either directly through media, like books or like that. And then comes your decision to perform bhajan, basically chant. Most of us started chanting a couple of rounds a day or something like that. Those who came that didn't grow up in it at all. So, and then comes a long period sometimes of purification, right? Anartha nivritti. And when included in that anartha nivritti, when you're ready, or even before that, you're still purifying, is the desire to be initiated. And that a very important step. And it goes on like that, and you're becoming more and more purified. And then as that happens, nishta comes. That's the same thing we chant, naishtiki. By attendance in Bhagavatam class, you get this irrevocable, right? No one had that word, irrevocable, but it's irrevocable. Means that it's not turning back. You're committed. You're not tempted to turn back. So anyway, it's progressive purification of the heart and the senses and your mind and everything like that. And the more we become purified, then whatever we do in Krishna consciousness, in that is very potent, and it gives us taste, the bliss. That rasa is part of the steps from Shraddha to Prem. Anyway, I won't go through all of that, and it's getting late. We started late. So that this theme keeps coming up, and sometimes we see, we've had a whole bunch of verses that didn't have any purports. Remember, like a lot of things going on. That means that the Acharyas didn't bother to write anything on there, you know. But there are some very important things that come up here. This attitude toward Kapila Dev, where even though all of the sons of Sagara were burned to ashes, and they thought, well, Kapila Dev did it, you know. But no, he didn't do that. They burned because of their offense at Kapila Dev. The fire existing in their own bodies became so hot, you know, that they burned to ashes. So Kapila Dev is you know, a manifestation of the Lord, and that came up here. So the point of the whole thing here is, and that's Apavitra. This is just my own personal little thing. This is the first verse I ever learned. Apavitra, Apavitra Va. Some of you know the story. There's a devotee now who's pretty famous named Amala Bhakta Swami. He lives in New Dwarka. He's well into his 90s now. He was my Hatha Yoga teacher back in 1972 when I first got interested. I knew nothing about Krishna consciousness. I was just wanting to get my health together. But I learned from, after he joined in LA and I was there, and he came to my office. I was working at Back to Godhead, and he wanted to tell his story, you know, and it's an important story. How he gave up his guru, realizing he was a bogus guru, and surrendered to Prabhupada by coming to LA. But he told there that before, you know, in his course of yoga study and getting trained, he had some exposure to bhakti. And he was interested in it, but his guru wasn't into that, and so he kind of left that. But he still had that element, and he taught me this verse, Apavitro Apavitro Va. I forget if he told me the meaning or not, but he told it, and his name is Krishna. Krishna's name is there, Pundarikaksha. And so I was chanting it on my way, you know, on the subway or something. Apavitro Apavitro Va. And then I remember when I got initiated, or I heard my first initiation. Whoa, that's the verse. Anyone who's initiated, this is what you get. And it means whether impure or pure, or in any situation, one who remembers the lotus-eyed Lord, Krishna, he becomes purified within and without. That's what this verse is all about, you know. So that's the theme here, and that's really the whole process of devotional service. What is the first words of the first verse that really is the foundation of the whole movement? Cheto Darbana Marjanam, right? By chanting the holy name, especially in kirtan, one purifies the mirror of the heart, mirror of the consciousness, right? So that you can finally see things as you are. You can see who you are. You can understand so many things. And that purification, if you're really serious about it, that you'll be liberated. That's your liberation. But that's not the goal. The ultimate goal is pure love for Krishna. But the sense of liberation, and why? Because your desires are being purified. That vairagya means that you're not losing your desire to engage in things, you're losing your desire to enjoy sense gratification. Rather, it's being placed by the desire to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. And that's, you know, through the medium of the spiritual master, certainly. But the whole thing is that you're not after your own selfish pleasure. You're after the pleasure of Krishna, and that's the essence of pure devotion. Bhajaniya padamam purusha sukhamatra sukhatvam. I don't expect you to memorize it, but it's a nice little summary of that verse, famous verse, Annabilasha Dashuram. This is written by Jiva Goswami from his Sandarbhas. It's in the purport to 2nd Canto, 3rd chapter, text 10, which is the famous Akama Savakama Vam verse. And basically what it means is very simple. It means one should take one's only pleasure in the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That should be one's sole pleasure. And if you come to that point, you're a pure devotee. That's what, you know, the gopis, they came out.
Vanessa and Tapas also, I heard that the audio was turned off for Zoom, so sorry about that. Now it's back on.
Yeah. So this is chapter 4 of the Adi Leela. It's so important. And it describes there how the gopis would dress themselves very beautifully and everything, and so forth. But their consciousness was simply, oh, Krishna will see and he will be pleased. They weren't dressing in competition with each other or anything like that. It was all simply in the mood of how can we please Krishna more. And they're the acharyas actually of devotees, the best devotees. So anyway, this theme is we're reading Bhagavatam, and it's becoming, sometimes it seems like that part about human sacrifice. I still have to look into that, but it always comes back to this. And we're going to have nice, I think, in a few chapters. I forget when it comes, the summary of Ram Leela, which is very, we know that, but it's so much nice to hear the Gaudiya Vaishnava interpretations of so much of that. So it all comes back to the same thing, this giving up our attempt to independently enjoy and realizing who we really are as pure souls, as part and parcel of Krishna, as his eternal servants, and learning how to act in that way. And yes, there are things to accept that are difficult at first, and things to give up that's also difficult. But the goal, the value, there's nothing more valuable. All of these billions and billions, it's just useless. The only thing that's really valuable in this world is prema bhakti, is love for Krishna. And we have an opportunity to attain that. Even if we don't achieve it one birth, we can move forward in the right direction and perfect our lives in a relatively short time. What's a couple of births? We've been roaming around for millions of births. So that's all I have to say, and it's getting late. I don't know if there's any time for questions, because we started late, but thank you for listening, and we'll resume with Krishna Katha tonight. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.